Boom, I'm in the room. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Everyday Conversations regarding mental health. Now, you're here because there's nothing on the telly. And I'm coming to you live from the old Heale Manor, and I'm your host, Lord Heale. Now, this evening, I've got a guest. Hey, result, boom, I've got a guest on. You know what this show's all about? It's all about mental health, taking the stigma out of it, and trying to encourage people to talk about mental health. Now, I'm still looking at finding guests for the show. So if you want to come on and have a discussion about an aspect of mental well-being, then please get in contact and we'll get you onto the show. This evening, what we're going to talk about is veteran suicide. Now, the guy I've got coming on, in fact, if I bring him in and then you can see, and then we'll start a conversation off. How's that? So, boom. Oh, it's me. No, it's not. It's Jeff. Give some more of that. Welcome, Jeff.
Welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to, be a guest on the show.
No, this is an important subject that we're going to be discussing this evening.
Yep.
So we're going to look at veterans' mental wellbeing, mental health. We've got some people in already. Good evening, Keith. Good evening, Catherine. Welcome to the show. Anybody else out there that's there? Just pop in the chat and say hello. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up and all the rest of it. And Jeff, now, if you want to give us a little bit of a back brief on your background, where you're from, and a brief description of what your program's about, and then I'll come back in and then we'll thrash it out some more. How's that?
Sounds good to me.
Right, the platform's yours.
My name's Jeff Williams. I'm from Veterans United Against Suicide. I'm a former Royal Marine Sergeant Major. Served 22 years, Falklands veteran. So sort a little bit and have a very good understanding of what a lot of guys and girls are going through at the moment. So much so, about 7 years ago, I think it was being flown under the radar. I wasn't really aware of it. One of my friends died of committed suicide, and it just was brought to my attention then, forefront of my mind. Started to investigate, have a look, what the actual story was all about. And to my dismay, I found a lot of people were committing suicide on the back of returning from Iraq and from Afghanistan. And before that, the Falklands, and before that, Northern Ireland. So a couple of us, I'm actually the founder, and I set up a Facebook page initially as an awareness, somewhere where people that were struggling, families that were struggling with living with somebody with a mental health issue could turn to. Because at the time, it was a massive stigma. Nobody spoke about it, and it was being flown under the radar massively. So that's how it all started. It started with a friend dying, as I said. I spoke to his wife, and she was traumatised by the event, and so was his family. And then I just decided, look, something needs to happen. So I stuck my head above the parapet and started raising the subject. Initially, got a mega hard time about it. Nobody wanted to speak about it. But obviously, 7 years down the line now, we feel like a lot of the doors have been kicked open.
So, all started off with a mate, and that's quite often how these start. I mean, I've had my best mate back in 2005. It was the 11th of November 2005. My best mate took his own life, and that was devastating. The following year, on the 10th of November 2006, my wife died of cancer. So a double whammy in a year.
Yeah.
Pretty tough to deal with at the time,
Yep.
but we get through it. So lots and lots of veterans at the moment are going through that those dark times,
Yes.
and the government, bless them, aren't doing anything to help really. There's nothing out there that the government are doing to make anything any easier, especially
I
with
think.
the
Sorry.
cloud that's hanging over us all at the moment.
Yep.
They're now going after five SAS guys that are operating in Syria.
Yeah.
What's that about? For taking out terrorists.
Yeah.
It won't be long before they start chasing us for actions that we did in Afghanistan and Iraq. I mean, they've
Well, that's
already had a
happening.
go at guys in
That's
Iraq.
hap- yeah, that's happening already.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, what do the government think they're doing? And then they wonder why they've got a problem with recruiting.
Yeah, they are destroying the fabric of the veterans community. I talk to veterans on a daily basis, and there's a lot of them hanging on with their fingertips. And most of them are very intelligent people, and they don't need to be listening to a lot of bullshit, idle promises and boasts that are never coming to fruition. They're really down in the mouth. And as you said, it's not easy out there at the moment for anybody, never mind veterans who have come back
Yeah.
damaged from war. Um, and again, I could tell you 100 stories about veterans that are literally, and of course, it's the ripple effect out to the families as well, who have to
Yeah.
live with somebody that's really struggling. Some of the stories are absolutely horrendous. Now, I just want to put you in a quick scenario because this is actual factual, not the bullshit that we normally have to listen to. This is the facts. So many of our guys, and in fact, it's in the thousands, came back from Afghanistan traumatised. The government's in denial. There's no plan B to look at these people who have been in conflict, probably the most intense conflict since the Second World War, with the amount of injuries that we sustained and the amount of people that had life-changing injuries, to bring them back and then bring them back from war. Some of them actually were had PTSD and were sent back out again because of the shortage of numbers. And that in itself is a travesty. And we're wondering why people are poorly, but they came back. They were encouraged to reach out. When they reached out, they were removed from the sanctuary of the military, where, some of these guys have been in since they were 18.
Yeah.
They didn't know anything else in their adult life, really. And then all of a sudden, they're removed from the military family, sent home. Now, you put yourself in that situation, right? You've served, let's say, 6 years. You come back, you're having nightmares, you're feeling down, and, all the symptoms of PTSD and whatever. You report it, and before you know where you are, you've been marched out the door. Then you've got to put your life back on track. Just simple things like relocating your family, finding a job, finding a school for the kids, and all the rest of it that goes on with it. There's a lot of stuff in there that is, as one thing is trouble in your head. It's
Yeah.
troublesome. If you've got 10 things that you've got to sort out and put your life back on track again and start all over again, and even just getting back into civilian life is so difficult for these lads. And a lot of them turn to drink, a lot of them turn to drugs, and a lot of them end up in prison. And then obviously there's the ones that just say enough's enough. And the sad thing about it is they're good people.
Yeah.
And when I speak to the families, they say he felt worthless. She felt worthless. She felt I was a hindrance to the family, to them. They would be better off without me. Statements like that, it's horrible. And then you've got the government saying, it's on par with the civilian population.
Yeah.
You've got Johnny Mercer throwing smoke screens all over the place and wondering why people are now bitter and twisted about it. And we've lost people because there was a lack of support. You can't go to war for 20 years and not have a plan to sort the mental health tsunami that hits you when you return.
Yeah.
And there was nothing. The only plan they had was hand it over to the overstretched NHS, who were not equipped to do it. And because of the trauma these guys had seen, most of them were being sent away because it was too difficult to deal with complex PTSD.
I had exactly the same.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I did 7 operational tours in 10 years. I did 2 tours of Kosovo, and I saw some pretty nasty stuff in Kosovo.
Mm.
Then I did Macedonia. 9/11 happened then. 5 months later, I'm in Kabul. Then I did an Iraq tour in 2004. And then I did 2 further tours of Afghanistan in Helmand. I came back in 2009. I got a job as a welfare officer, and I did that for 8 years. Finally left the military in 2018, April 2018,
Yeah.
and it was just 2 years later. In fact, it was just after we came out of lockdown. I was struggling a little bit. Went to see the quack. He put us in touch with. First thing he wanted to do was put me on antidepressants. Well, I was having none of that. So he put us onto this group called iTalk, which is a local mental health team down here in the Gosport area. I had 6 sessions with them. I had 2 different psychologists. They didn't understand the stuff that I'd seen, what I'd been through. They, for me particularly, they weren't able to help.
No.
The way I got through it, I got in touch with a couple of mates that I'd been through it with. We had a chat about it, got it all sorted out, put it back into its box, and it's back there, dealt with. I'm okay. But I had some dark thoughts in that time. So I can empathise with what guys go through. It's a really challenging time for guys, and lots of us it doesn't hit until we're out of it. We've
Yeah.
left the fold. We're out in Series 3 on our own. For me, I wasn't in a fit state to work anyway. I was broken underneath its gorgeous exterior. There's an absolute train wreck going on.
Yeah.
But so I retired at 60, and every day, and then they inflicted this lockdown on us, and I think that was a catalyst that set me off because I didn't have enough to do.
Yeah.
And when you've got too much time on your hands, you start reflecting on stuff. You start having those nightmares, and all the stuff starts surfacing because you're not busy enough.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is that guys do feel that they've been let down by the system. They've been
Yes.
let down by, quite often, the units. Once you're out, the rug's pulled from under you. They haven't
Yeah.
got the time to be able to
No.
look after the guys. Now
No.
there are over 2,000 military charities out there, or charities set up for military people. What I will say is that there is always somebody out there to help.
Definitely.
There's somebody there, and sometimes all it takes is a word with the right person that's got the time just to listen. And I think that's really, really important. If you are feeling alone, you're feeling down, there's always somebody to reach out for. And there's always the military family that will step up and assist and help you. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that guys tend to lose because they're out of it. They don't want to be a burden. They don't want to sort of go back into to contacting people. They seem to think it's a bit of weakness
Yeah,
that they're having
pride gets in the
trouble.
way. Pride
But
gets in the way. So that's what I
yeah,
hear more than anything else. You know,
and
I'm
that's
constantly
the
banging the
thing, isn't
drum
it?
about reaching out,
Yeah,
but pride gets in the way. I say to the guys, look, shelf that. You know, there's no one judging you.
yeah,
What we're trying to do is, well, you know, you're a shoulder to lean on, somebody to just get yourself stabilised again, and then there's plenty of time to move on and do the things that you need to do to, you know, to get the therapy that's required. Because a lot of these situations as well occur because of just other events happening in their life. Could be, you
yeah,
know, financial issues. It can. The biggest one, if I'm brutally honest, that I come across is relationship breakdowns.
yeah.
That's probably the if you listed everything, I think that would be at the top.
And
Then you've
I
got
think that
finance.
there's a reason for that. And I think because when you're in the military, if you've been married in the military for any length of time, you've always been away. You've
Yeah,
been away on exercises, you've been away on this, you've been on away on that. You come
yeah.
back and you're there 24/7, and you're not used to having that closer relationship with your partner. And I think
Yeah.
that then you, it's like a two-edged sword. I mean, you get on her nerves, she gets on your nerves. You're not used to being together all the time
Yeah.
because you've had that lifestyle where you've gone away, you've been away with your mates and all the rest of it, and then you come back and you haven't got that going away aspect to your life. And
Well,
I think,
I can remember when I used to come back to him, and you know what you have is a wife saying, you actually get in their way. You
yeah,
break their because they've had to survive while you've been away. They've got a routine. They've got a structure to their life, and obviously you come in and go, get Coronation Street off the telly now. I want to watch the football. You know, and they all look at you with horror.
yeah,
We always watch Coronation Street and all that. I get all that, you know, and I don't think the military do enough to. Well, sorry, I
the,
don't want to knock the military because I know they've got a job to do,
yeah,
but they don't do enough to brief the ladies and the gentlemen sometimes to what to expect when a guy comes back traumatized.
yeah.
And they see a massive difference in you. You know, they look at you and you look drained. You're short tempered. You know, you're irritable. You don't want to be around people, and all the classic, you know, classic
All the
situations
signs
that
are
do
there,
it. Yeah, they're all there, but
and you
because
don't see it in
people are not.
yourself.
No, well, you can't. You know, and you're in denial yourself. And in fact, I struggled with PTSD, or I was struggling very badly after the Falklands. I didn't even know it. I thought it was normal, and I thought that's how everybody felt.
Yeah,
It was only as I got older and my resilience drained down, I left the bravado of the Royal Marines and the family, and all of a sudden I was on my own. And I was surrounded by people, especially in the civilian workplace, who just did not get it. They
oh,
did not understand. They didn't accept it. You know, as far as they were concerned, you're this big roughy tufty commando. You've come into their work, and all they want to talk about is, "Well, but you've got some war stories, mate." Well, actually, they don't want to talk about it. And if you
yeah,
go back, I can remember my granddad, and everybody used to say, "Oh, he's very quiet." I know why he was quiet now, because he fought the Second World War
yeah.
and he saw traumatic things, and he didn't want to burden the family with those nightmares that he was having all the time. So his best way of dealing with it was to shut up and not say
Mm.
nothing. And that's why people go quiet, you know, and withdrawn, and people irritate you. And like I said to you, the saddest thing of all is people feel betrayed.
Yeah.
That's the saddest thing, because they need a lifebelt to hold on to.
Yeah.
We would be saving people. Well, we save people every single day. The network and you know, the Veterans Network, where, like you said quite correctly, they're the first person there.
Yeah.
You know, I put a shout out for a paratrooper yesterday, and within an hour there was somebody knocking on his door to check on him. And what we do in Veterans United Against Suicide is we've got a system called the buddy check, where you check on your mates regular.
Yeah.
So you know so and so struggling, you keep in contact with him. You've only got to look, if everybody looked after 4 or 5 people, just a quick phone call to check they're
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, you're going to get the people that say I'm fine when they're not.
Yeah. I
But
mean, that's there's two questions you asked there.
yeah,
The first question is, "Are you all right, mate?"
yeah,
And I said, "Yeah, yeah, I'm fine." You follow that up with, "No, are you really all right? You don't
yeah,
seem yourself," and
yeah,
that hopefully will open that the crack in the door, so you can get your
yeah,
foot in there, and then you can expand on that conversation, and hopefully they'll open up. And all it takes is use your ears twice as much as your cake
definitely,
hole, and
exactly.
just listen to somebody. And sometimes that is all it takes to get somebody out of that dark spot that they're in.
Yeah,
They open up, they find out that they're not the only one that's going through that sort of shit.
no,
There's so many other guys that are going through exactly the same thing, that have come through the same stuff, that then they feel a little bit better about themselves. And I
true,
think that's
absolutely.
really, really important. And I think the work that you're doing is putting guys in touch with guys just to do the buddy check. And
Yeah.
that's a really important thing. So how do you go about setting that up in the first place? How do you go about putting guys in touch with other guys?
Well, because it's commonplace now, well, sorry, first and foremost, it's down to doing what you say. It's having the communication skills to be able to get it out there. Like you just said, it's not a weakness. We're here to help. Just give us a shout if there's a problem. Or if you're a family member and you think he's struggling. It's very difficult to say that, though, when a person, you can't get somebody to reach out if they don't want to reach out. So the family sometimes can see it, but they're in denial and they won't happen. That can create a problem.
Yeah,
But you know, especially the younger lads who have got young children, they are a motivation to carry on. The wife wants them to carry on. I mean, I even had this unbelievable poem yesterday that a wife wrote to a husband who was in a dark place, telling him how much she loved him and that she was waiting for him. And it, you know, as hard as you come, it brings a tear into your eye. There's a realisation that, you know, you are hurting other people. And I think you've got a duty to do something about it. Like I say, I'm not judging, because some people, you know, we always say this 10% you'll never
yeah,
save, because there's no signs. Nobody can see it. It just happens. Then
yeah,
you've got the people that reach out, and there's warning signs going off all over the side, and you've got to spot them. But Todd, to answer your question, what we do is we identify those people. We put it to them that we are here to help. We're not here to judge. You know, well, we're not even a non-profit. We are just a Facebook page. None of us get paid. We're all veterans or mothers of veterans. And we were there, and we will signpost you to somebody that will deal with your situation immediately, because that's the biggest problem. All the established charities, they're too
yeah,
long-winded and they're not immediate action. And the problem is we need to react. When a bloke's made his mind up, we need to be on his case straight away. But
absolutely.
you know, you leave it a day, you leave it 2 days, and they're gone. You know, like I say, so it is about knowing the community, putting out good stories like this video that we're doing now, this show.
Yeah,
You know, it reaches people and they go, they're talking sense. I know exactly where they're coming from. And then
Yeah.
and then you tell them that you've done this, you've done that. It's not a matter of boasting. It's giving the people the opportunity to see that the system works
Yeah.
and that people are coming out the other end. And that's what we've focused on is getting to the middle ground people who probably would go if somebody didn't intervene, talk to them, like you said, talk about old times in the military.
Yeah.
Go for one of these fantastic breakfast clubs that are setting up all over the UK. It's a great way to meet the guys again and be sort of immersed into that environment that we all loved.
I mean, we're really lucky. We're really blessed as a veteran community. Um, we've got several breakfast clubs. The Armed Forces and Veterans Breakfast Clubs are a
Yeah,
great place to go and meet guys. We've got one here on Saturday at Hornet Services Sailing Club, and we've just taken it over from the RNA Club. And already I've got, last week we had 45 on the books, 45 turned up. This week we've already got 40 said they're coming. And
amazing.
it's just, I mean, it's just tremendous. And there's lots of banter around, there's lots of people meeting each other. Lots of people know each other anyway from the other breakfast clubs. There's
Yeah,
another breakfast club over in Portsmouth at the at Sovereigns every other week from us. We're on the second and fourth and the fifth Saturday of the month if there's 5 Saturdays in the month. And it's a great place to meet. We're blessed with another group called VOS, which is Veterans Outreach Support.
yeah,
And they have lots of different events on. They have a regular Butties and Banter. There's another group that's called Buns and Banter that meets once a month, and it's veterans. And it's just keeping in touch with the community. And if
definitely.
people if people are feeling a bit out of themselves, not right, then there's always somebody there that will pick up on and say you're okay
Yeah,
and and point them in the right direction. That
absolutely.
remember the old MASH series and the theme tune to MASH, and the
Yeah,
theme tune goes, "Suicide is painless."
painless.
Well, suicide isn't painless.
No,
A, it hurts if you try it on and you get it wrong. You've got pain to live with, but it's the people you're leaving behind, the pain
definitely.
that they go through, the what they feel. And I know a case where a dad took his own life, and his younger son was, I think, about 7 at the time, and it wasn't until he was 18 that it came out that he thought it was his fault that his dad had
Yeah,
taken his own life, and he'd
yeah,
lived with
definitely.
that trauma
Yeah.
from the age of 7. So
Well, apparently there are some statistics out there that suggest that if your parent committed suicide, you're very high risk yourself.
yeah,
There's been a survey on that. I can give you another story which is horrendous, but a little girl found her dad hanging in the house, traumatized by that for the rest of her life. And the famous, I was speaking to the mum about it, and she said, "I just don't know what to do with her. She's just not the same person anymore. Dad's not there to support her." And she said exactly that. She said, "Did Daddy die because I was a naughty girl?"
yeah.
You know,
And
and,
that's
and,
that's the sort of
and
trauma
she
that you leave behind,
definitely,
um, and it goes on for decades,
absolutely. And,
and it's
and people say
so
there's
so
no
sad.
trauma, there's no stigma, but there is stigma in your own mind.
Yeah,
Oh, why did your dad? Well, where's your daddy? Oh, he's killed himself. The pressure we put the people that are left behind, but the pressure we put
yeah,
them under is unbelievable. But I think one thing there's a couple of things that have irritated me in my work over the last 7 years, and I'm just brutally truthful about it. One was the government's denial of the numbers. I've got the numbers in front of me. Now, let me just explain about these numbers because they're always challenged. but they're as realistic as we can get it as a community.
Yeah.
Because we approached a bloke called Jim Wild used to work with me, and he used to keep the database. Well, he still does. If anybody ever wants to know any information on up-to-date figures, Jim Wild's the guy to speak to. But me and Jim started to raise the figures because we approached the government and said, can we have the statistics of veteran suicide? Because it was on the back of a statement where the government said that that the numbers of suicides in the military were on par with the civilian population. Now, I couldn't believe that because at that stage we'd lost 10 in just over 6 weeks. 10 troops were
Yeah.
killed themselves. Now, I went back to the minister and I said to him, excuse me, you're not horrified that 10 veterans have committed suicide in next to no time whatsoever, in 6 weeks? I said, if 10 policemen committed suicide, or 10 ambulance workers, or 10 NHS, or even 10 politicians, it'd be all over the news and
Yeah.
everybody'd be screaming about it. But you're saying it's not happening. Can you tell me how many veterans died? This was in 2017. He said, no, I can't tell you that. I said, why? It's because we don't record veteran suicide. Well, how can you possibly have a benchmark figure when you haven't even got a start line? And that's what started for us. And we've
Yeah.
been recording the figures ever since. Now, they challenge those figures and say they can't be right because the coroners haven't said that that was suicide. And our argument to that is, if it's one of your mates that you serve with, and one of your mates phones up and says, have you heard about Steve? What's happened? He hung himself last night through PTSD. Why should we have to wait for 2 or 3 years for it to go through a process, through a coroner, to then turn around and say exactly that? So
Yeah.
you've got 2 or 3 years worth of figures, all hidden. They're not
Well,
current at the moment.
what they've done now is, I think since 2020, the coroners' courts have now started recording that it's a veteran or a serving personnel that have taken their own lives. So now they're seeing the figures, the actual figures of veterans that are taking their own lives, and it's scaring them.
Well, let me
It's
give you some figures because that's, I wanted to get, I want it to get out there, and I want civics to look at this and go, I'm not aware of that, and ask your MPs, why is this allowed to happen and we don't know about it? The BBC won't discuss it with us, and nor will ITV or Sky. But that, I mean, like I said, we've painstakingly, got this information together. Volunteers have done this, and they're telling me it's too difficult to do. In the first year that we did it in 2017, excuse me 1 minute, we started part through the year, back end of the year, and there was 14 families broken, devastated, probably never ever going to get over it. 2018, I'm not going to put you on the spot here, Tim. What do you think the number was for 2018? Bear in mind it was 14 the year before.
somewhere around about 70, I think.
89.
Not far out.
89 we've got names, we've got numbers, we've got contact details, we've got confirmation. Well, Jim has anyway. We used to do it together, but I'll just pass him the information now. But there were 61 vets out of that, and there were 16 military guys serving. Now, the thing is, they've got those figures. They know they're serving. They still
Yeah.
don't know all the veterans, and that's the truth. Now,
Yeah.
the year after was 89 that year. The next year was 81. 90 the year after. 80 the year after that. 58 last year, sorry, the year before. 43 the year after that. And there's been 6 this year so far. Add all them, it's over 300 people. That's almost a unit. That's 2 companies of
Yeah,
men and women, because some of them
that's
are ladies. And the
that's
other
a
statistic
light
we've worked out
battalion.
of all this is that the the ratio over that period of time, over 7 years, is 4 veterans dying to every one serving. So if you're using the serving as a benchmark for military suicide figures, you're 4 times out. That's a fact.
Yeah,
And I can't get that message to anybody that will champion it. All we get is, oh, we've done a survey through a university. Oh, have you? And how much did that cost? 1 million.
yeah,
Okay, and how did you get? And what we did was we gave them every single serving person's name and number, and if they've died, then we tick them off and say, oh, that's one suicide. It doesn't work like that.
no.
He ain't been recording them. He hasn't been recording
And
them
they paid them £1
for
million for that.
over 1 million. Johnny Mercer, he wanted something that he could lean back on and go, I've done all I can, and it's not as bad as these guys are making out. Do you know what? I served 22 years. I don't remember one suicide in that time. I don't know anybody now who I talk to who doesn't know a brother or a sister, in the military terms,
Yeah.
that's died of suicide. They all know somebody. So how can what dynamics changed in that period of time for it to it's Afghanistan has got a lot to do with it,
Yeah. I mean,
definitely.
going back to the Falklands in '82,
Yeah,
there's still veterans now being identified with PTSD. There's been
definitely.
an awful lot of Falklands veterans that have taken their life in that interim period, and more often than not, it's and what we were seeing from the Falklands coming forward with Northern Ireland, and then we get into the '90s into the Balkans, and we got the
Yeah,
first Gulf War, and then the Balkans, and then in the '20s we've got Afghan and Iraq
yeah.
kicking off, and we're in Afghanistan for the best part of 20 years when we finally thought it all fell to pieces and we pulled out.
And
We're
that's a
sat on
key
top
point
of
as
a
well.
powder keg
Yeah, that's the key
of
point as well. The way we pulled out of Afghanistan, there's a
oh
lot of guys struggling with that. They
yeah
lost friends and family out there, gaining a couple of yards of ground, like the bloody First World War trench warfare. They got a bit of ground. We took it over, and now we've handed it all back to them. It's
yeah. I
unresolved in
mean,
the red.
when it all collapsed, I mean, I got three of the interpreters that worked for me were left
Yeah,
behind.
yeah.
Fortunately, we've managed to get them out, and they're back here now, and they're fairly much settled now. But they got left behind, and they were actively being sought by the Taliban. Another one of the guys that worked for me was killed by the Taliban. Didn't manage to get out, and it's just the way that it happened, and it didn't need to happen. We could have still been there, still supporting the Afghan National Army, the National Police, and it's all down to Biden pulling the rug out. They only had the Yanks only had 1,200 or 2,000 troops in there anyway, and if the other NATO allies had stumped up and put a few more troops in there, it didn't need to go the way it did. And I think that for me, I was really angry. I'm still angry over it.
Yeah.
Having spent, I spent 18 months in Afghanistan, and I saw the change there, and I saw the change for better. But it just grips that it's gone the way it has, and I really feel sorry for the young girls that are out there
Yep.
that had 10,
Definitely.
15 years of going to school,
Yeah.
of being educated, and now they've got nothing. They're not even allowed to leave the house now. It's just
It's horrendous.
beggars belief, really does. And that sort of thing does make people really, really angry.
Yeah,
And that can bring on some real nightmares of,
definitely.
of
I
knowing
mean,
that
that was
there's
the one thing
people
about
out there you
one thing about the
know.
Falklands. One thing about the Falklands, when we got back from it, there was a sense of achievement. There was a sense of national pride. I
Yeah,
remember coming back on the Canberra, and being coming into Pompey. Loads of boats and the families were there, and
yeah,
we come back. We expected it to just be like coming back from exercise. You get on the coach and go back. There was thousands of people there. My family were there. It was amazing. What did the Afghanistan guys get
nothing.
back? Go and leave for 2 weeks and decompress.
Yeah.
Get yourself, just have a ball. That doesn't solve anything. In fact, anything, it makes it worse.
Well, on all the operational tours I ever did, I never went through decompression. I never went through Cyprus on decompression. For
No,
one reason or another, I came straight back to Blighty. The first couple, because I was a reserve, I was just taken straight up to Chilwell, demobbed, clear off. Then I went on to full-time reserve service, and it was a bit different, but I still missed out going through Cyprus doing the decompression, particularly after the last two Afghan tours.
sure.
I ended up, one of them I came back on one of the repatriation flights, and the other one, our team boss brought us all back together in one hit, and the flight we were on just happened to go straight back to Bryce rather than via Cyprus, so we missed out. I suppose that's got part to do with some of the issues that I've had. Don't know, but when I saw lots of stuff going on out there. I mean, my last tour, particularly in 2008-9, I was all over Helmand. I spent 6 months flying around installing radio in the boxes. So I was in Kajaki and I was in Garmsir and I was in Sangin. So I got to see quite a lot of what was going on. And I was in different patrol bases and different FOBs throughout that time. So I saw a lot of. I wasn't actually involved with the action, but I was seeing the guys going in and out.
Yeah, yeah.
Lots of guys coming back in bits.
Well, I think that, the guys I've spoken to, which is numerous to be honest, it was a lottery. Every time they went out, they used to joke
Yeah,
about who was going to get blown up this time. If you got back, it was like, whoa, crack that one. People having children before they deployed in case they didn't come back and
yeah,
stuff like this. I mean, to carry that around in your head, at some stage, I don't know how tough you think you are, it's going to seep to the top. I remember my dad saying to me, I came back from the Falklands and he went, "You've changed." I didn't think I'd changed. In fact, I was quite offended. I thought, no, I haven't changed. He said, you have. You're more
yeah.
serious. You're not
It does
where's my
change you.
happy-go-lucky son gone, he said. I was horrified that he felt like that. And, the trauma I must have put him under. But, like you said, I mean, there was no decompression in them days. We
No.
actually went on leave. I
Well,
went straight on the sergeant's course.
there was two types of guys that came back from the Falklands. There was I think it was predominantly paras that they flew back into Bryce, almost straight from the Falklands, straight in, and then you had the rest of the guys came back on the ships. The guys that came back on the ships have suffered less with PTSD because they had that sort of 2 or 3 weeks on the ships coming back, couple of can rule a day. The guys that flown straight back didn't get that decompression as such, and I think the predominance is that those guys have suffered more with PTSD than the guys on the ships, and I think that's where they've come to it.
Yeah,
Latter day, the Marines have done it really well for a long time, working on TRIM, which is the
yeah,
trauma incident management. And
yeah,
it's only the Army have picked up on the last few years with Skid Dorney that instigated it for the Army, that the Army started to do it When you're involved in an incident, a traumatic incident, you got the trim team comes in sort of 72 hours after the incident, identifies who was involved and all the rest of it, whether they're direct or indirect, who needs a one-to-one, who needs a group, who needs an overall brief, and then they go back in at the 30-day, reassess everybody again, and then at any time somebody that's not right, they can get signposted on to professionals, and then they go back in at the 3 month point and again reassess to make sure that everybody's okay. The problem comes, of course, if you've got guys in patrol bases that are going out multiples contacts day in, day out. How do you trim those guys as you're going through?
Not possible.
Difficult.
Yeah.
But I think the trim process does help a lot with staving off some of the problems, because it's not unusual. The old Tom Jones bit. It's not unusual to have those sort of nightmares and what's name in the early days. And if you can instill that into the guys that it's perfectly normal, those thoughts that they have, then they're able to deal with it a lot better. So you as a bootneck must have seen that.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say, I mean, I always have to be careful that I don't come across as biased, because obviously, there's lots of rivalries amongst the regiments and the units and whatever. But in my 7 years of doing this, especially, I have seen the Corps is a front runner in the Royal Marine charity, especially,
Yeah.
are very focused on mental health issues with the troops. They're all over it.
Yeah.
And I think that helps with the numbers. Sadly, when you look at the figures, I mean, the Army's been absolutely smashed to pieces, but there was more Army guys out there. RAF
Yeah.
not so much, the Navy not so much, but the Army have taken the bulk of the losses. But the Corps, I think a lot of charities, military charities, a lot of the units, especially the Army, have looked at the Royal Marines' way of they've dealt with it, and like you said, they've brought that into their game, and that will, in time, that will help.
Yeah.
It's not going to help the people that are struggling now.
No. No, I mean it's too late for that. It's too late for the trim. But I mean, I did 3 deployments with free commando brigade, and I mean, they took us under the wing and looked after us, and from my point of view, that was good. I also did a deployment with the paras. I'm glad I didn't do any more with them. To be honest.
I'm not saying nothing, not guilty, Your Honour.
So Jeff, how do people get hold of you on this? What's the best way of contacting you to have a chat?
Well, there's 2 things. I mean, sort me out on Facebook. It's Jeff with a J, Jeff Williams. I'm the good-looking guy in a Royal Marine veterans attire. Or Veterans United Against Suicide Facebook page. Either of those Facebook pages, put a comment in there. You want somebody to come and speak to you, and somebody will be there instantly.
Yeah.
Like I say, we do publicise stuff, but we don't never use people's names. It'll just be a Royal Marine in trouble in Portsmouth, and then the guys in Portsmouth, they go, oh, look at that. They'll contact me or one of the team. I normally coordinate it with a lady called Jules. And then we'll get somebody down to them if that's what's required, or a phone call just to stabilise the ship and understand exactly where we are. And then we will signpost them into the direction of people who are professionals, qualified to take it any further. Point out to them what's available to them, all the government type stuff, up courage,
Yeah.
that type of thing. Advise them to, be open about it. First thing you need to do is speak to your doctor, get it on your system that you are struggling. So nobody, your medical records are secure, and then that opens the doors to other treatment. Like I say, there's loads of walking the wounded
On
help
the doctor
me.
thing, it's important when you register, when you come out, you register with a doctor
Yeah,
to inform them that you are a veteran, and
true.
that gets flagged onto your medical records
It
because
does.
there's so much more because of the Armed Forces Covenant. You are you're not treated any different, but you are given a bit more priority when it comes to particularly the
Yeah.
mental health side of it and up
Can I,
courage.
can I say,
They will put you in touch with the right people,
yeah. Can
and
I
I think
say
that's important.
that is a little bit, and I don't want to be negative, I just want to be realistic. It's a bit of a postcode lottery. Portsmouth is particularly good.
Yeah,
You know, in fact, it's very good. There are other places where veterans come to me and say it's a waste of time. I've been into a surgery; they don't even know anything about signing up and being a veteran. And like you say, they did say you would get priority treatment. Clearly, that's difficult to manage, and it's difficult for the practices to manage that. But that's not strictly true across the board. It's an area of improvement that
yeah,
needs to happen. It needs to be across the board, across the whole of the UK, where you get your records updated with veteran, because then like I say, these doors open to up
yeah.
courage, up fortitude, and all the rest of them.
Well, we
Combat
had,
stress.
in fact, Martin's on tonight, and Martin Diverin. He works for Op Courage over in Littlehampton, Chichester, that area,
Yeah,
and he was on the show and he explained all about that. So I'll link that episode down in below. I'll
yeah,
also include your contact details in the
yeah.
description as well. So
No problem. But
anybody that wants
anybody,
to get hold
anytime,
of
reach out.
Jeff or
That's my
Martin,
message. We're in it together.
yeah,
There's no point hanging on expecting some miracle from the government. It's not going to happen. We need to deal
that's
with
it.
it ourselves, and then hopefully the next generation that come through will benefit from the hard work and
Yeah,
diligence that we're putting in to raise this subject. So, we are just saying it as it is. It's our reality and it's our truth.
yeah,
Our people are struggling. We want people to be aware of that, and especially the media, stop covering it up, call it what it is, and let's get it
yeah,
dealt with.
absolutely. Well, Jeff, that has been fascinating little chat, and I
Good, mate.
wish you every success. And if
Thank
there's
you.
any veteran out there that is feeling in a dark place, please reach out. There is help there.
Definitely. There's some good people out there looking, flying wingman for you, top cover,
Yeah,
and they will support you while you get yourself sorted out.
absolutely. Well, thanks, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
Well, what a fascinating chat we've had this evening. If you are a veteran, a couple of things. Ensure that you, when you register with your doctor or you're already registered with a doctor, let them know that you're a veteran. There's no stigma involved in it. It opens more doors. It gives you better support. So that's a key. If you are in a dark place, think before you do anything daft. Reach out. There is always somebody there. Always somebody that will reach out and help. So, thanks very much, guys. Until next week, then, when I hopefully have another guest on, another fascinating chat. In the meantime, stay safe and reach out to veterans groups. They're there and they're happy to help. The Armed Forces Armed Forces and Veterans Breakfast Clubs, they're all over the country. Just pop in that, find the nearest one to you, go along and have a chat with the guys and have a decent breakfast as while you're at it. There are loads of veterans charities just there to help. and there's no stigma involved in mental well-being. Just remember that. So until next week, TTFN. Ta-ta for now.